Bring to us your poetry for inspiration sought. Come join us with your images, your verses, words, and thought. From here, we'll share your balladry with those who don't know it. This platform's here for you to show the world that you're the poet.
Welcome to episode 16 of You're the Poet, the poetry podcast featuring you. I'm host Matt Bergio, and I'm here with co-host Phil Bergio. Phil, welcome.
Thank you.
Here at You're the Poet, our purpose is to share our love of poetry with the world and invite you to do the same. I want to start by saying thank you to all of our guests, and especially to our listeners who have made You're the Poet possible. We hope you enjoy the podcast and the poetry that is shared here. Our featured guest for this episode of You're the Poet is Travis Hupp. Travis, welcome.
Thank you very much.
We're glad you could join us, and we look forward to your contribution to the episode.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
To start things off, I'm going to read our classic poem for the episode. This poem is by Ralph Waldo Emerson, and I didn't really look up any background information on this, but it's called Music, and it just talks about the music that he hears in everything, both the good and the bad. Music. Let me go where'er I will. I hear a skyborn music still. It sounds from all things old. It sounds from all things young. From all that's fair, from all that's foul, peals out a cheerful song. It is not only in the rose, it is not only in the bird, not only where the rainbow glows, nor in the song of woman heard, but in the darkest, meanest things. There alway, something sings. 'Tis not in the high stars alone, nor in the cup of budding flowers, nor in the redbreast's mellowed tone, nor in the bow that smiles and showers, but in the mud and scum of things. There alway, something sings. Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Good. Wasn't he like friends with Thoreau? They had like a little group. I had to do some research on that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like I said, I didn't do any background information. That's usually we say a few things about the author, but I feel these people have heard of Emerson. So
Yeah.
I do like that it has that. Like I said, he's talking about the music, but he's not talking about just the good. So I like how he mixes both the good and the bad, that you hear that music in everything.
Yeah, I really like that it's about music and it also has a musical quality to it. And it really is a loving tribute to all the things that music can make you feel. So it's really good.
Yeah, I agree there. All right, from there, we're going to turn it over to Phil to share his poetry for the episode. Phil?
Okay. I wrote this poem. Let me go some background on it. At my age, you start losing friends, so you cherish the ones you still have. This is a poem called An Old Friend. Old friend, as we smoke cigars and sip our bourbon, conversing and while playing gin, teasing and joking, but giving no care to who will win. Old friend, we toast friends who have passed and those who are still here, commenting on thoughts and things that we hold so dear. Old friend, we reminisce about when we were young, when we were brash and bold. Never did we think back then that we would grow so old. Old friend, but the years flew by so fast and swift as we stood through thick and thin. You stood by me when I was down and gave me strength within. Old friend, Philip Bergio.
All right, thank you for sharing. Yeah, I noticed that, like you said, not necessarily that, at your age you're losing friends, but I think we always go through phases in life. Like I always joke that like, oh, I'm in the phase where everybody's getting married, or I'm in the phase where all my friends are having kids. And like you said, you talk about losing friends. I feel like, well, that stage for me is, my friends and I are losing parents. So, but I do like how you commemorate your friend. And I could picture you and your friend Jim, who was here recently, kind of reminded me of a lot of this, which seems like there's some inspiration there.
Cigars and bourbon.
Yeah. So I can see that time you guys share together.
Yeah, I think it was really relatable. I could picture you sipping your bourbon and playing gin with your friend and just enjoying each other's company and appreciating it. And it really reminds people to appreciate the friends that they have and try to do what they can to maintain those bonds.
Amen. Yeah, we were friends for at least 50 some years. Easy.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah, definitely. Nice.
We worked together, met him at work in the early 70s.
That's great.
Yeah, I hope I still have some good friends at that age.
You will. Knowing your friends, you will.
All right. Well, moving on to my part of the episode, I'm going to share a poem. We're definitely getting into the autumn and fall season here, which is my favorite season of the year. This is a poem I wrote years ago, back in 2003. And I remember writing this poem because I remember sitting outside of a school getting ready to go to work. and seeing this one lone tree sitting there with these like bright gold leaves, and they were just kind of one by one slowly falling off. And it kind of had this very kind of somber feeling, dude. It was almost sad. And so I wrote this poem called Autumn Tears. Today I shed my autumn tears and weep the day away, with sorrow through the passing years that led me to this day. One by soft one my tears drift down to paint the ground below, or float away across the town to yards already full. The wind it chills me to the bone, sends shivers down my spine. It whispers soft the words unknown, at least words that aren't mine. My autumn tears of yellow gold that dream of summer past abandon me like green of old as from me they are cast. And soon my tears have all been cried, I'm left bare and alone. The autumn breeze takes winter's side and sets a longing tone. A tone for wanting spring again when leaves and flowers bloom. Instead of cold and thoughts of wind, calm winter lays her tomb. Today I shed my autumn tears, but soon I'll learn to cope, for winter does not fuel my fears, but gives me newfound hope. Matthew Bergio.
That's a good one. You used to have a whole chapter in your book based on nature and trees and leaves and stuff.
Well, thank you. I do get a lot of inspiration from nature.
I think that was really relatable and paint a vivid picture. I think anybody can relate to just the different longings that you can feel when the seasons are changing and all the things that can make you contemplate and kind of ruminate about. And yeah, it was really vivid. I really like that.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, from here we're going to move to our guest section of the episode. Travis, you're the poet. Show us what you've got.
All right. This first one is entitled Painted Corner. It's from my first poetry collection that's available on Amazon entitled Faster Annihilators, which is a collection of poetry containing poems in it I wrote from 1996, back when I was first going into high school, all the way to as recently as last year. So it's 25 plus years in the making. This one's called Painted Corner. Painted in a corner is fine as long as it's in mine. Such a spirited old soul should not believe in only science. The mad maestro in the basement is losing concentration. His housemates sleep above him. He hopes one day to awaken. Awaken them as he awakens himself to the beauty of the painted corner. Everyone chooses their trappings, but his loneliness isn't mournful. All science was once thought magic. Once everyone was primitive. Spells and prayers and experiments, each of them has rituals. Efforts to explore them can border on identical. You can throw numbers at anything and confuse it into submission. Love doesn't fit your figures. You can't appraise your intuition. Its value can't be totaled. The source of it is no one's to question. It's deeper than the heart of you, higher than any resplendent heaven. No scalpel or probe can penetrate it. No Bible or scroll can minister it from existence. There are too many angles to view it from for any single discipline to explain it. We can only define it together, only by disagreement. Travis Hupp.
All right, thank you for sharing.
No problem.
Very good imagery there, and I like the whole concept of the painted corner, like your corner. You know, as you said there right at the beginning, painted in a corner is fine as long as it's in mine.
I like that.
Thank you.
Got another one for us?
Yeah. This next one I wrote towards the end of last year when my dog that I'd had for 16 years, a little Pomeranian named Oz, passed away. And it was just such a big, cavernous loss. I had to write something to help me deal with the feelings and to tribute him. And it's published in my second book, which is called Sin and I. It's also available on Amazon. But the poem is called Precipice, and it's in memory of Oz. It's not that I'll ever, for a second, consider you gone. I feel your amiable presence around bends in your old ambling trail. Glimpse your astral body in the ricochet of sunbeams laughing, your smile wide with soul on your measured mare-like stroll. It's just that the last hug wasn't labeled as such. I didn't know the chicken nugget split down the middle with your sister would be your very last half a nugget ever. I didn't predict the last time I walked you would be our last time side by side and both alive. I did predict you'd walk beside me still, and my boy, I was right, because now your love alight. Still, my center is shocked, trying to process the memory of reaching down to pick you up and finding only the heaviness of a body. The sudden heart rend on such a scale that the pumping red muscle fluttered like some precarious bird in my chest, lame-winged, teetering on a precipice. I held you, tried willing your warmth back. I couldn't get it to work, but I seemed to freeze, steadied myself against the onrushing walls of blind grief. I stumbled numbly. I am still stumbling. What fell was everything. What falls is everything. Travis Hupp.
All right, thank you for sharing. I think we can all of us that have had pets can definitely relate to this poem.
I was asking Matt about, I have poems about our animals from the past and I couldn't find them. And Matt says they're in their old photo album. I put them with the pictures of the pets that have passed.
That makes sense. It's a good thing to do.
I got to dig those out now, put them in my poem stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. A good tribute to Oz there. I
Yeah.
know my wife is just kind of crying today about thinking about her dog as he gets older, and she's like, I don't know what I'm going to do without him. He's been with me through everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're really a gift from God and make up for a lot of the pain of the world a lot of times.
A few years back, we had to put an old dog down. She was the best dog we ever had. And we had a lady came to the house and put her up on the couch with her head in my wife's lap and gave her the first shot was just like make her relax and slowly fall asleep so my wife could pet her and all that. And then, gave her the final shot.
Oh,
That was nice instead of like dropping them off at a vet and walking out,
yeah,
Yeah, they came here. It was very, very peaceful.
good. It's a hard thing to have to go through.
It is. 16 years for a little dog like that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think so. He had a really good life.
Sounds like he was treated good.
Yeah, I loved it. Every day with him was a joy.
Yeah, that chicken nugget comment reminded me
Yeah.
of me taking my dog to the Wendy's drive-thru to get chicken nuggets. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. What's that quote they say? That dogs will give you some of the best days of your life and one of the worst.
Yeah, never heard that, but that's good.
Yeah, it's absolutely true.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we move on to another poem, if you'd like to share another, tell us a little bit about your books. I know you mentioned them there in your intros, but you said you had two books out and where we can find them and whatnot.
Sure. Okay, so the first one is called Faster Annihilators. It came out last year. And the second one is Sin and Die, and it came out earlier this year. The first one, like I said, is 25 years in the making. I've been writing since I was going out of middle school and headed into high school. It was a way for me to deal with a lot of things. And I didn't immediately think that I should publish it or anything. But over the years, I shared my poetry with certain friends and stuff, and they encouraged me to get it out there and make it public in some way, shape, or form. And I finally decided that at age 41 that it was time to do it and stop just sitting on all these poems and see if they could give people something to relate to or spread some joy or some pathos or give people something to empathize with or share some meaning with some people. And it's been a really rewarding experience. And then Sin and I, the second one, has themes of reconciling identity with faith and religion. I had kind of been chased away from the Christian church by a lot of the homophobia and ignorance that's sadly endemic to the church sometimes. But then I decided that, I still believed in God and I didn't want to attribute things like homophobia to God when it was just a failing of certain people within the church. So I came back to the church and reconciled those aspects of my identity. And me wrestling with that and coming out on the other side of it kind of informs a lot of what Sin and I is about. So those books are both available on Amazon.com. I think they're available on booksamillion.com too. For some reason, Faster Annihilators is not available on barnesandnoble.com right now, but Sin and I is. So they can be found online, and I appreciate all my readers. So definitely check them out.
Yeah, well, congratulations on those. We'll definitely share some links for that when we publish the episode. I wanted to say you remind me a lot of myself in terms of the age group and stuff. You talk about 1996. That's kind of when I started my poetic journey. And then you talking about your first book being a collection of poems over the years, and my dad's always getting on me about like when are you going to publish your poetry?
Yeah, you should.
Yeah, so I think this has been helping me, kind of just hear what other people are doing, and I think I'm going to get around to it, and I'm going to try to get my dad to do it as well. He's written enough poetry now at this point that I think he could do it as well,
Combined?
Oh,
maybe
Yeah,
combined.
maybe combined.
But I also wanted to say, I'm glad you made your way back to the church. I know how you feel about that. And I thought that was good that you came back and made that decision that, it's just the people that, you can't just throw God and the religion away just because some people are homophobic or have these issues.
right.
Reminded me of a friend in college. He was the same way when he first came out, and he was raised in a strong faith believing family and struggling with those issues. But he finally just came to the decision that well, this is how God created me,
Exactly.
and I just have to live my life accordingly and make good choices. But this is who I am, and God created me like He created everything.
Yeah, and God doesn't make mistakes.
I read that people that turn away from the church, it's not Jesus making a turn away from church, it's people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I take it you're Christian.
Yes, I am.
Well, we're all imperfect.
Yes, exactly.
Have we got one more? Give us another poem.
Yeah, I got one more. This one's a pretty short one, but I think it's impactful. It's going to be in my upcoming collection that's going to be out sometime next year, probably early next year. It's going to be called American Entropy. This one is called Throttle. Run it down and throttle it, just to prove who's badder. What an unfortunate soft animal, drifting in range of your temper. I hope we both escape you. I'm just going to be honest. I hope you snatch at my sleeve when I leave and catch only a little stardust. Travis Hupp.
All right. Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
That's an interesting one. I was trying to see how I would interpret it about what was going on in that. And I kind of picture somebody, I don't know, we always make the joke about these guys that like squeal their tires and all this stuff, trying to show how cool they are, but nobody ever thinks they're cool. That's what I pictured at the very beginning, even though I don't know if that's where this poem was going or not.
Yeah, it's kind of I used to have this involvement with this guy who was generally a pretty good person, but sometimes he could just have these sudden mood swings where he would get abusive, and he had these kittens that his cat had, and they would be just walking by, and when he was having these mood swings, he would do things like pick these tiny kittens up and just hurl them into the wall and things like that, and things that were just
Oh,
Wow.
shocking and horrible, and made me really realize I had to sever that connection. It was just a really dark thing to witness. And that poem, sometimes I still just have flashbacks of just remembering that and hearing like the little kitten's body sounding like it was crunching when it hit the wall. And just when those memories hit me, sometimes I had trouble dealing with them. So I just wrote that poem in retrospect to kind of deal with that memory and just be glad that I got away.
Wow. Yeah, it sounds like that's not the kind of person you want to be around. That's dangerous and wow.
No, I hope he got whatever help he needed, but yeah, I got out of there.
All right. Well, good to hear that. All right. Well, thank you for sharing your poetry with us. Any other thoughts on poetry before we move on? Or...
Just that it can really help give people a framework for creating dialogue around issues and make you feel better, make you feel less alone. And once you get it out there, it's out there, and you never know how long afterwards it might make an impact. It can has the potential to make an impact from that point on forever. So it's really worth doing and a beautiful thing to delve into.
Definitely. And we found that from a lot of our people, even our listeners, those that don't write poetry themselves, but they've just commented on how they can hear the poetry, read the poetry, and then even if they read it multiple times, get something different out of it every time.
Absolutely.
And so, that's why we do this podcast. We're just trying to get people to share their love of poetry, express themselves, and share poetry with the world.
Yeah, I'm really glad you guys are doing this. It's a really valuable thing.
spread the word.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you. And we're going to move on a little bit with the episode. I have just a little bit of feedback. This is from Mariah S. And this is in response to episode 14 with Seth Palmer. I did literally say out loud in my car, "Oh, Phil, don't break my heart. He just needs a big hug."
Yes, I do.
I loved it and liked Seth a lot. I like the more vulnerable ones. I liked your remembrance/joyous anniversary poem. And then about the podcast in general, she says, I love the back and forth. I also love that it has everything to offer from mental health, sobriety, love, nature, all kinds of poetry. I enjoy it. So thank you, Mariah, for always sharing your feedback with us. As we wrap things up, I want to let our listeners know we are grateful that you've taken the time to tune in. We hope you're enjoying the poetry shared here, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the podcast and share it with others. If you've written any poetry and you want to share it here, whether you just have an interest in poetry, consider yourself an amateur poet, or are a professional poet with published works, contact us to be a guest on a future episode. Please check out the website at www.you'rethepoet.com. There's a section there that answers questions about being a guest. Follow us on Facebook for updates and info, and send us an email to host@you'rethepoet.com for feedback or questions about the podcast and how to be our next guest. Now that the You're the Poet community is expanding at a rapid rate, we have set up a patron site for those who would like to show their support for You're the Poet. You can find us on buymeacoffee.com/you'rethepoet. Thank you for your support as we continue to grow. Until next time, Phil, thanks for joining us.
Anytime.
Travis, thank you for being our guest.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, guys. Goodbye.